It is 6:02 and I'd like to call this meeting of the WSESU to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, I call, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically in a previous noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise...
That was me, I'm sorry, that was me.
There may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by email. In the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call in accordance with the law. Okay, got through that. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 10th, 2023.
So moved.
Thank you, Deborah. Is there any discussion, deletions, additions, corrections? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, and the minutes are approved. And Frank, do you have something you would like to talk to us about? Because I'm on finance now.
This is good. No, I was planning on addressing any questions that folks might have, but as we get ready to close the fiscal year, I will have a year-to-date report at our next meeting, kind of the status of the SU, but nothing specific this evening.
No problem. So I would entertain a motion to approve the warrants of May 10th, 2023 in the amount of $623,065.19. The payrolls of May 5th, 2023 in the amount of $549,075.59. The warrants of May 24th, 2023 in the amount of $670,892.19. The payrolls of May 19th in the amount of $587,314.99. The warrants of June 7th, 2023 in the amount of $601,904.58. And the payroll of June 2nd, 2023 in the amount of $567,205.59. Waiting for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Deborah. Is there any discussion? Does anyone have questions or? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's pay the bills. Moving on to the administrative report, I'm told that the Panorama results have taken a little more time to complete and are not ready for this meeting, but will be ready for another meeting in the very near future.
Yep.
So, moving on,
Okay, administrative report, I'll give a couple of updates before we start to distribute this job description while I'm speaking. So this week is a week of graduations and celebrations and reflecting on all the work of our teachers and students. So special week as we think about all that we've put into the school year. So on Monday night, the Vernon Elementary School had a graduation for their 6th graders. Tuesday night, the Bracktown Elementary Schools conducted graduation. I believe Guilford and Putney were on Tuesday night as well. Tonight on this campus, BAMS has their graduation happening as we speak. Unfortunately, that's indoors because of the rain. And then, of course, Friday at 6:30, we'll have a graduation for BUHS students. Hopefully outside, but it's looking not looking too great on that. But again, like was reported last night, we'll wait as long as we can until making an announcement. On Thursday night, there's an awards night at the auditorium here at the high school. And that's a night where a tremendous amount of scholarships are given to students in our high school. And I think at a future meeting, we should probably dedicate some specific time to that system that we have in place, because it's very impressive, the amount of money and the amount of scholarships that we have in place, and how we and how this community supports education. So.
Can I ask a question about graduation? Last year, a lot of awards were announced as kids were coming up to receive their diplomas.
Yep.
So I know a lot of schools have decided, in order to level the playing field and acknowledge everyone who's graduating, that all awards be moved to a different night or time, so that it's just everyone is graduating on a, I don't know.
Yeah, so traditionally, the awards night, a majority of those awards and scholarships take place on Thursday night. And then there's a handful of awards that take place on graduation night.
It was significant last year.
Yeah.
Just as a grandparent of someone graduating, you hear all the awards, right? And then someone's name is called and they come up and receive their diploma and they sit down, and then you hear someone else with a lunch. Anyway, it just makes a difference.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so that's that. And in terms of the topic on the report, the job description of the principal mentor. So here's another look at that. We were asked to rewrite it. So essentially, Stacy has put this together through collaboration with principals, with myself, as well as Frank and Paul, and in collaboration with our current principal mentor, who's in the position right now. So this job description reflects the work that has been done this year with principals to varying degrees of support based on need.
So the principal mentor was received his contract in March, at the end of March or April?
Not sure when exactly. It would have been this spring. Yeah.
Did he receive the old job description or the new job description when he was hired?
I think it was still being developed. I don't know the exact time frame. Job description versus contract.
Because that's unusual to change a job description after a person has received a contract, right?
Okay.
So, and we just received this today. It would have been nice to receive it before the meeting. But I'm not sure about the policy. This is a change in the job description. Does it warrant, or does it warrant scrutiny by the SD board?
I don't think so.
I thought the policy was that if there's a new job being created, the board needs to see the description.
And that's the question, because this is a new job description. Is that a new job?
No.
It's tweaking that whatever the prior description was.
This is what the SU board asked me to produce before the end of the school year.
Okay.
Was a reworked job description.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. And the new job description says, as the first line, prior experience as a principal in elementary and secondary levels.
Mm-hmm.
So is that true for the current coach? Both elementary and secondary?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's broad enough where he can just spend 90% of his time in the high school or 10% in the elementaries. It just allows that complete flexibility, right?
It's broad enough to really focus on where the highest needs are, for sure. And for this school year, this campus had the highest needs based on a completely new leadership team.
And isn't it typical to specify that it's a full-time position?
It's not a full-time position.
It is not a
No.
full-time position. Last year, wasn't it a full-time position?
He does not work a 40-hour week.
But I remember distinctly that when we discussed it, Frank, you said that it was a full-time position, I thought.
Hasn't changed. And there's a lot of measures for full-time. If you're talking about a teacher contract, full-time means 185 days. If you're talking about an administrator, it means 260 days. If you're talking a paraeducator, it's 191 days. Full-time depends on the job class. In this case, this is a non-union position that is, as Mark said, is largely driven on need. So the compensation and the working conditions, that's the primary driver.
Okay, but I remember distinctly when those long discussions about this position were had in this very room, we talked about splitting the possibility of having 2 half-time positions to add diversity of expertise, and with the understanding that this was a full-time position.
I don't know why that matters in terms of it's designed to respond to the need, as Mark has indicated. If, as you heard the testimony from, I think, just about every administrator who receives the services over the course of 2 board meetings, the need is being met. It's a very satisfactory model. Now there's no request from the administrators for a different model. But if there was, it is the type of function that can be evaluated and changed based on need again. Because it's non-union, there's a lot of flexibility in the way to define the full-time equivalency, the compensation, most importantly, the job responsibilities.
Is the compensation the same as last year? Because
It's in line with the same average increase that has been allocated to all non-union positions.
so is it a half-time position or 1/3 position or?
During the school year, it's practically full-time. During the summer period, it's obviously much less. There's still activity going on, so it's it's probably nearly full-time. But again, it's sort of an irrelevant question in that it's driven by the need, and if the need, as expressed, first and foremost by Mark, but then by the constituent, which is being served, which is the principals. At this point, this job description meets the need and has been very well received by our administrative team.
Yeah, and I realize it's been very well received by the admin team. I heard that loud and clear, and by you too. But I'm just wondering how you evaluate someone based on how many, without knowing how many hours did you spend here doing this and that?
By the outcomes.
By feedback from principals, by
By satisfaction outcomes.
weekly check-in meetings with the mentor, which I do.
So,
And this is the evaluative metric there. Those services, to the extent they're provided, of course, is the substantive.
Yeah, I'm just
He
thinking-
participated in a 360 survey, just like all administrators. We're scheduled to meet next week to review the results of that.
Okay, I'm just thinking if Andy suddenly won the lottery and put his position and somebody were to take this over, I would be wondering, well, how much time is expected to do this part of the job and that part of the job? It seems very freewheeling.
I think the question is valid, and it has nothing to do with how the person is received by others. That's a different issue. But it's ballpark. About how many hours per week or month or ballpark? Because if this job description were going out, you'd have to give a ballpark about what the workload looks like. So even with a job description, I mean, that normally is on a job description. So
I would
think
estimate
those
approximately 30 hours a week.
approximately 30 hours a week.
You know, I'm sure we could have the principal enter joint meeting and have a lot of specifics about those questions. You know, I wasn't under the impression that that was the nature of this review, but glad to respond to that.
It's certainly much more thought out. And I would think if we do have a change, then at least we're handing someone this instead of what we had before. So this to me is much better and better reflects what the job itself is, where the previous one did not.
So
This doesn't-
for an example, the preferred experience as an approved Vermont Principal Association principal mentor, currently in Southeast Vermont. And every year a list goes out in the spring identifying who the approved mentors are. In Southeast Vermont, there's 4 approved mentors. Andy is one of 4. The other 3 are currently acting principals. So clearly their ability to provide mentoring is not quite there.
The person mentors assistant principals too, right?
As this year, yep.
Okay, it's not specified here, but.
Well, is it administrators? I mean, I guess supports principals and assistant principals?
Where's that?
I'm
The first
wondering if,
bullet under
the
responsibility.
first bullet says administrators, but maybe, I guess, is the term administrators inclusive of principals and assistant principals?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it, okay. Right.
And then, is there a need for the principals to have a mentor to help them with hiring practices? And evaluation is so critically important. Does this person assist the principals in formulating an evaluation of staff? That seems like a critically important aspect of their job.
I think a better way to say it would be the principal coach would help the administrator follow the WSESU supervision evaluation procedures.
Which I presented like 3 months ago at the SD.
Yeah, and that's the master agreement here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that middle bullet there, consult regarding the master agreement. And that's a very comprehensive document in terms
So I
of.
mean, 2 critical parts of the job, well, there's so many different parts. One is hiring staff. And you know the emphasis is on hiring diverse staff. And the other is teacher evaluation.
So can we just go back to a point that you just raised about hiring? To what extent does the principal mentor get involved with hiring, interviewing?
In terms of what is requested of them through an interview process. They may be asked to participate, they may not be asked to participate. They may be asked follow-up questions to support making a good decision. I can't speak to all principals exactly what that has looked like, and we've done a lot of hiring this year.
So anyway, the issue has come up again and again that the district needs assistance in terms of outreach, places to go, to widen the net, to bring in more applicants when there's such a dearth already, right? And I understand there's a dearth, but and ways of reading a resume and organizations to go to that gather resumes and make them available to schools and other entities. I don't have the answers. I'm gonna say that, but I do know that institutions have struggled with this issue. And they have had to go outside the boundaries of the institution to get assistance with this. It's not easy.
Well, tonight we will be presenting an HR director and an HR generalist position, which, as you know, is a new position to the HR department to help fulfill those topics.
Yeah, I think in practical terms, my understanding of how administrators do it is if there's a question of outreach, that's a question for the HR director, not for the principal coach, not for the administrator.
So I do appreciate that, and I'm not looking to say that this job description can do that, but I'm just listening to the conversation about the role of the principal mentor when it comes to hiring, right? And that's.
So I would really stick with what is on the sheet in terms of responsibilities and performance expectations. These are the priorities that have been determined in supporting this position. Doesn't mean that can't bleed into hiring process.
Okay.
What would you say, just looking at this list currently for K through 6, what's one of the most important functions or duties?
Personnel matters, student management matters, crisis management.
And what about the high school? Same?
I would say definitely the same for the high school.
And family engagement for both.
And when you say personnel, what do you mean specifically?
Managing your staff. Holding people accountable.
Okay, well,
Did something come up at one of the SU meetings? Can I just see the original? Having to do with the language. The language is attend. Okay, it's attend staff disciplinary meetings, okay, fine. But what about support and advise principals with significant student discipline matters? I'm wondering just about the language, student discipline. I don't know what, it came up at a meeting or someone was talking about it, that there's nothing here, and maybe this is out of line at this point, about restorative justice. But instead it says student discipline matters. Does that feel punitive?
Would you prefer student management, like it is up above? Or then is there any difference between that bullet and the next bullet?
I don't know.
I mean, restorative is part of a good disciplinary process, having a restorative element to discipline.
okay.
But I'll certainly try to think of a better word.
Yeah, it just feels punitive when we sort of we want to step out of that role.
Which bullet are you reading?
I'm at the bullet that is, let's see, 2, 4, 6. 6 down under responsibilities.
Okay. Well, there's a range of discipline, and significant discipline matters are, significant episodes which are extremely stressful and anxiety provoking.
Sure.
Having a mentor who's kind of seen and done a lot that you can lean on to support you as you manage your way through that process is a very important element.
Yeah, without doubt. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay.
Are we all set with that one? Okay.
So I would just suggest just a minor tweak. Again, in case Andy suddenly left the position, to specify how many hours per week the job would entail?
I think another way to approach it would be to identify the number of days. I mean, my contract is a certain number of days, and I have some discretion and some flexibility in which days I work. I'm considered full-time, and to me, that allows me to make some good executive decisions about where I'm gonna put my effort and when I'm gonna really focus my time and when I can not focus my time.
Well, there you go. You do that with your contract, so this person could do the same,
Yeah.
should be able to do the same thing.
Can I ask a question though? That's in your contract, not in your job description.
Right, we don't often put the number of days necessarily in the job description.
In the job description, so the question is it better served to have that information be in the contract?
Yeah, and it might be, that might be part of the negotiation with whoever is being hired in is, you know, hey, I definitely want more summertime, so I'm gonna ask you for a 185-day contract similar to teachers or a 200-day contract.
But-
That might be subject to negotiation.
Even so, before it gets to the level of contract, if you see an advertisement for a position like this one, immediately you need to know, like, what's being asked of me, and should I apply for this position or not? And that piece is missing. It's missing. Positions say what kind of a degree is required and stuff like that, years of experience, but, yeah.
And again, this isn't an advertisement.
No,
This
I
is a job
understand that.
description.
I understand, nevertheless, yeah. Okay,
Kelly?
thank you.
Kelly?
So, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
So, without having the benefit of seeing the document, I'm just going based on previous conversations and what I'm hearing you say. And I can appreciate the difficulty in kind of determining like the hours and the sort of the even the scope of what this person's job really is, and the unpredictability of it, because you can't predict what topics they're going to need to provide mentoring for. That being said, I do appreciate the Tim and Deborah's point, if I'm understanding it correctly, about if this was, I mean, regardless of whether the person who holds the position now, putting aside, because we're not talking about a personnel matter, we're just talking about a job description, it does feel appropriate to have some description in there of like the timing, whether that is days or whether it's hours or whether it's some indication that there's more time, generally more time anticipated during the school year and perhaps less during the summer, or something like that. And I don't see it as I don't see this as something that would only need to be done if we were then looking for a different person for the position. I think that for completion purposes, it feels appropriate to make sure that this job description is complete.
Okay. So add some vocabulary around hours and days or days.
Yeah, I think so.
More specific.
Yeah.
Can do that.
Okay.
I wrote it down, yeah.
Can I, are we done with this?
We can be done with it if you'd like. The next thing
I
on the
have
agenda is.
one more question about this, just to make sure I understand this. The position, the contract that was just signed, it's a one-year contract? That's my question. What,
I don't know. Stacy would have facilitated. It's either a 1 or a 2-year contract.
it's a 1 or a 2-year contract? Okay. Okay.
Can I get back to Panorama?
You sure can.
So we have 7 people here, and when you present it, it'll be like an hour and a half of discussion, presentation. I'm wondering, isn't there some way that SD and SU can maximize its time and not duplicate presentations? Like invite Carrie to an SD, so
I come anyway, you don't
Yeah,
have to
she
invite
does.
me.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that just seems to be a duplication, redundancy between the SU and the SD, which is unnecessary sometimes.
Yeah, it's a-
That sounds really sensible.
I'm perfectly fine showing up at an SD meeting, and if you guys wanna check that box and say we've done it, and we've done it with SU and SD, what I used to do, and I think Walter will probably do and Vernon as well, after you guys had a presentation, or we at the SU had a presentation, I would send the BCTV link to Vernon and say, hey, great presentation on curriculum starting at 15 minutes,
There you go.
watch it for 30. So Vernon had the opportunity to see the presentation as well.
Yeah,
So I think presentations should only happen once,
okay then.
in my opinion. You guys have got enough to do.
Warn it as a joint meeting and.
Right, and I
it'll be
show
fine.
up, yeah.
Then we agree, so I better rethink my decision.
Yeah.
Given the length of the SD meetings, you might want to.
You might wanna, yeah.
Have it right
Here.
then here.
I think that's valid.
Yeah,
And I've
I
actually
agree.
sat in, Zooming meetings here on the SU side and seen presentations that I wished were on the SD side as well. Slightly different, but, I agree, let's make better use of our time. Right,
Yeah, so we'll put it on this. We'll still have to warn a joint meeting, but there's. no
but it could
reason-
be on the SU side, and that will get us to 8:00.
Well,
You know my bedtime.
But,
I think those are things to, think about at the retreat, because I think for efficiency's sake and health moving forward, collaborating on ways to get back to, a standard around like a 2-hour meeting, might be a good thing that we could do and collaborate on. Obviously, there are times when there are significant things on the agenda, and those are the times we should say, take the presentation off and move it to the SU, so we can really focus on those things. But I think there's some collaboration we can do as a team to think about that for next year. I don't think anybody likes being in a meeting until 10 o'clock.
no. Especially when finance starts at
No.
5.
So,
So, yeah. No, I think that's something we should look into.
yeah.
I do want to say that I think it's unrealistic to assume that an SD meeting will end at 8:00. I mean, when I look at how packed the agenda is, as well as the necessary executive sessions that suddenly kick in, and you really do not have a choice about that at all. I think a 9:00 end time,
And that's where I'm saying we can
would
really
make,
think
would
about
be
balancing
perfect,
the
would be
agendas.
perfect for an SD.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay then, are we done here with this one? Okay, we're going to move on to public comment on non-agenda items, and I have to read this. Anyone making a comment can expect a response that falls into one of the following categories. Receive an acknowledgement of the comment with no further action planned. Receive an immediate response by the board chair or administration. Administration would be directed to contact and respond to the person. Clarification is sought from the administration for a specified meeting. The topic would be addressed at a specified future board agenda. The matter would be referred to an executive session, or a public hearing would be held on the matter. Having gone through all of that, is there anybody out there in Zoom land who would like to comment or ask questions? Going once. Going twice. And we are moving on. Under unfinished business, we have policy reviews, second reading, for A1, the rule and adoption of school board policies, D17 mascots, and F38 Title IX. Has everyone gotten a chance to have a look at them?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anybody feel we need to bounce back to policy on it? I don't think so. I think these are things we've already been through. I just need to ask the question.
Okay, so just in fine tuning the question you just asked,
Mhm.
does this need to bounce back to policy? Who is policy under those circumstances? Does it need to bounce back? Yeah, see, that's what I'm asking. See,
Yes,
that was really slick.
That would mostly be people who have, someone says, no, we can't say that, we have to say, eat
Right,
pizza.
right.
And then
Right.
we have to take it back and talk
Right.
about it in
In
committee and
in which committee?
policy.
Wait a minute, that's only, wait a minute. No, there's a distinction here between SD and SU. I thought there was a distinction.
It's
And now
the
you're
same
acting as if-
distinction, like I always show up at the SD
Yeah,
meetings.
yeah,
But I
okay.
mean, it's, we're all
Okay.
trying to.
Yes, and we're doing
Make
a
it
juggling
work.
act here, yeah.
What it is complicated.
Yes, okay.
I should mention for Carrie and Frank's benefit perhaps, in the last policy meeting, we discussed, again, time saving. There is no legislative requirement to have a second reading.
Correct. We've just always done it.
We have, and I think it would take an act of the whole board, I think it should take an act of the whole board to get rid of that second reading.
Yeah.
But it's been pointed out to me, and I think I agree, it gives everybody a chance to read it, weigh in, comment, people from the public.
But it's not a lot, but it's still time.
It is still time,
It is still time,
but
and I would say if we ever didn't need the time, I'd be okay, but I like it being on two agendas, in my opinion. It seems more transparent.
Okay, so the issue has come up about the mandatory or required policies. Those policies, we cannot change the intrinsic wording of the policy. We can add to it, but we can't change it. So there was a suggestion that the mandatory required policies can go for a first reading and then go for either adoption or readoption after that first reading. And that just gets something off our plate without denying community feedback.
yeah, when there's nothing we can really significantly alter, I don't see why we shouldn't do it that way. Kelly has her hand up though.
I just want to say that sometimes when you're talking about first reading, second reading, if there is something that, such as Deborah was just saying, like wording from the legislature, and we are looking at just adopting that language, it seems like just doing the first reading would be appropriate. And if the board at that meeting determined that they wanted to add something or whatever, we could send it back for another reading and any changes. But I actually think that having things for a second reading is a good, a more efficient use of time, because if we adopt it and then members of the public feel like they didn't get a chance to weigh in, or another board member looks at it and says, you know what, actually there was something else and I should have said something, I think it's gonna, it's gonna take time to come back. And then it just seems more efficient to have just automatically have the second reading for something like that. And then, it just means it's one more board meeting, and doesn't seem like it's that onerous.
Just as a note, I called Sue Siglowski about it. She said that most districts have one reading. Although she said there's one district that for some odd reason has 3 readings.
That, as a matter of fact, is the old rule.
The old way.
Yeah.
In practical terms, I'm wondering if there are some policies, the policies are gonna come from at the SD level, are gonna come from the SD policy committee anyway. And in some cases, it's gotta be clear, we aren't gonna change this. And in doing the first reading, all the policies you need a first reading, you say on the first reading, this is the first reading, we don't anticipate changes, this is likely gonna be voted on, this will be voted on at the next meeting. Whereas something like the animal policy, where it's pretty clear from the get-go that there's gonna be some discussion about it. You say, here's first reading, this is just giving everybody a heads up. Policy's gonna be working on this, if you get comments, send it to the policy committee, we'll plan on bringing it for a second reading. And just at that point, kind of differentiate between those, so that everybody knows at that first point which way it's going to go.
That presupposes that someone has a crystal ball to a certain degree. And to make a judgment call to say, see, if it says mandatory or required, that we get it, right? If it's something like animal policy, I don't know whether it's, I base the second reading or the third or the fourth reading based upon comments that I get. And as soon as I get comments, I filter it, I send them through to the committee, and I know we are going for another reading. Unless it's something,
There may be policies that we have that aren't mandatory policies, that are kind of no-brainer policies, that we would say, as a policy committee would say, yeah, we gotta do this. Let's at least say at the first one, we probably, we don't expect any comments, we expect to be coming back with exactly the same thing for a vote next meeting.
so I've learned, those policies in question are the ones that are there.
Oh, right.
Are the ones that, you think it's gonna go through quickly, and you actually get bogged down in ways that you didn't think you were going to, which is fine. Everybody is contributing. D7, volunteers and the issue of driving, that we really had to work through very carefully. Just coming back, tweaking it. No one thought that animal policy would probably be an even longer engagement. So,
I think just leave it to the discretion of the chair of the policy committee
I second that.
and the chair of the SD
yeah,
to determine which policies.
The chair of the SD, yeah, and the chair of the policy committee.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because I think that this board should follow the SD on this policy,
Okay, got it.
on
Okay,
this subject.
okay.
We are not
I think
on your.
It's gonna get a lot easier. You
Yeah,
can quote me
yeah,
on that in a
yeah.
year when you're ready to go.
Well,
I do think it is as we move through and get updated.
Yeah, we're moving along. It's just that we are in some really tricky waters right now with some of the policies so we wind up, okay.
Look how
All right.
easy dress code was.
Oh my God, don't even say a word. We are waiting to see what's gonna happen with that one. That's
Just
gonna,
getting started.
oh man, that's gonna be cool. All right, thank you.
Okay, no, this is great. I do think it's a good idea with the mandatories to try and speed them along,
Yes,
so we can
yes.
get them out of there.
So do you,
Okay.
so we're saying we may try to only do a first reading on mandatories, or do you not even want that in the minutes?
Again, I'd like the SD board to
We're
approve
gonna leave
that
it, yes.
idea, because we're really close and
So we'll stay with 2 readings.
Okay.
We'll stay with 2 readings, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So presented for first reading, we have D3 staffing, C7 board relations, and B3 conflict of interest. So I hope everyone's gotten a chance to look at them, and if you have anything you'd like to say about them, please send it to the policy committee. Don't worry, I'm the policy committee too, so.
Oh, no, you don't. I just heard that.
That's just how it works. Sorry.
Nope.
Okay, moving on to new business. Mark, you've got new hires and
We do.
good things for us.
Yeah, so we'll start with 2 resignations.
Can I just stop a second and just go back to policy and make sure where we are right now?
Sure.
So we have got a group right now that are going for a second reading.
Mm-hmm.
A1, D17, F38,
Mm-hmm.
right? F38 is 28 pages long or 22 pages. And that's the one that Kate Margaitis is the coordinator for, right? So those are going for a second reading.
This is considered their
Their second
round.
reading, right, and now we've got a first reading. Okay, thank you. All right, sorry, I just needed to
Yeah.
confirm
Clarity is always a good
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 resignations. Marla Benoit, BOHS special ed teacher, and Melissa Kavanaugh, a pre-K coordinator. So 2 resignations.
Do I hear a motion?
So made.
Thank you.
Okay, some new hires. We have Jackson Cohan Smith, a BUHS special ed teacher. Kevin Drury, a secondary special ed coordinator. Abigail Healy, a Green Street special ed teacher. Samantha.
And when you start talking about it, and all of a sudden I get an email from Best Buy saying, hey, pay your bill.
Kelly, is that you?
That was Kelly. Well, it wasn't Kelly, it was someone in her house, but her hand is up.
Samantha.
Sorry, I went to raise my hand and also, sorry.
That happens at my house too.
Samantha Thatcher, Guilford, special ed teacher, and Sean Westendorf, speech language pathologist. So we can vote on those, and then I can share some HR positions after that.
And everyone got to see the email from Mo, it's great. So we didn't vote on the last one,
Yeah, right.
Oh, well,
so
sorry.
we should probably vote on that. All those in
Okay.
favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And now the new hires, I need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
I have a note from the, just of interest, from the BUHS Leadership Council. Winston, what's his last name?
Salesman.
He's been named varsity coach for men and women's basketball.
Men, boys basketball.
Oh, boys.
You're in
Yeah.
college.
Yeah, we have, next year we'll have a new head coach for the girls varsity, just Karen Henry, and then Winston Salesman for the boys.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yep.
It is, like him a lot. Okay,
Okay, and then an HR update. We've hired a director of HR. His name is Michael Kelleher. Ann and Deborah served on the committee, which is great. Others on the committee included staff at central office, Kate Margaitis, and let's see, essentially staff at central office and one principal representative. And we're very pleased to be able to bring Michael on board. He's got a long history in HR, in the healthcare system. In fact, was the HR director at BMH for a good 10 or 11 years before moving on to Springfield. So he'll be coming back to the area to take over as HR director. And we feel really good about this hire.
How do you spell his last name?
Kelliher. Frank and I made a number of phone calls, background checks, and feel very confident and excited to move forward. And then in terms of the HR generalist position, Mary Leary, who's currently the admin assistant at Academy School, will be transitioning down to central office in the HR department. So again, Mary's been a very dedicated employee to the school district for a number of years. Stacy has been spent the day with Michael on Monday, has spent a couple of half days with Mary. That will continue next week in terms of the transition process. Mary will be starting on July 1st. Michael, after his notice to his current company, will be up on July 1. He will then take a week vacation and start with us officially on July 10th. So, transition, but with each transition, there is opportunity. One thing that Michael does bring that we will ask him to do is Title IX coordination and HHB. He's got a vast experience in doing investigations. He has a legal background. And we've talked about this throughout the year in different settings. Kate Margaitis, who does a wonderful job as Title IX coordinator, really putting that on as a burden for a building principal is quite a tall ask. So she has gone above and beyond. She's pretty darn excited to give that title.
Would she be giving it up to Michael?
And Michael, that would be part of his responsibilities moving forward. Yeah.
And what's Mary's primary area?
HR generalist. Maybe Frank, you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, one reason why Stacy has not been able to reach out as much as we would like to see in the job and recruiting, expanding the network, is because of the significant amount of time it takes to onboard new hires. So that will be a primary duty of Mary, which also means supporting a lot of correspondence with new employees, answering questions, not only just the hiring process, but to support them through the year. Of course, Michael will do that as well. So important that HR has that rapport with the employees.
First impression is so important, as we bring in new employees in the school district.
Yeah, and that's also essential for HR at the central office to take on the Title IX duties, because there's no way that could be squeezed into the current structure. So, the extra 40 hours a week for our HR support are really going to create capacity. And as Mark said, we're really excited about the level of experience, the kinds of systems thinking, the contact, how many initiatives Michael has led over his career on so many things that are important to our system around supporting diversity, equity, and good practice.
And retention.
Right.
So when we were in policy, I'm just gonna give you one dirty look at it. You're just getting it from me. Carrie Amadin, let me just be public about this. Okay, when we reviewed F-38, and there was discussion about Kate's role, what happened was, the coordinator was presented as a full-time job. So, right? Mm-hmm. So now if it gets shifted over to the HR director, who, if it's a full-time job, I wouldn't want the HR director bogged down in it. And I don't mean to minimize Title IX, but how is that going to be managed by the HR director? Because we want his responsibilities to be such that he succeeds, right? That's what you want as he comes into this district.
Does the coordinator have to be a full-time job, or you just have to have a coordinator appointed?
A coordinator appointed.
Yeah, Kate wasn't a
Kate wasn't a full-time.
No, she
No, I know that, however, I know that.
Okay.
She is a full-time principal
Yes.
doing Title IX
Right.
coordinator, I understand that. But when we reviewed the policy, it came up that the Title IX coordinator position was such, given the size of the district, that it is a full-time job in and of itself.
Yeah, I don't remember that specifically.
Okay.
I do remember saying something like it depends on the year.
Yeah.
And what's happening in the school district,
Okay.
where it could be. Certainly a school principal managing that over a number of years is
It's impossible.
not sustainable.
Yeah.
So I do see this as a responsibility in Michael's job description, taking that on, and then obviously, like everything, we'll assess as the year goes on. But adding extra support to the HR office provides taking on more, and this is part of the more of what would be asked.
So the HR department consists of two people at this point, Mary and Michael.
And Whitney Howard.
I'm sorry?
Whitney Howard, who's the benefits coordinator.
I see, Whitney Howard, okay.
And they work closely with my office, me and Mo, with Frank and his team, and certainly with curriculum and special ed as well,
Yeah, absolutely integral to
All right.
every function in the central office.
and diversity equity.
So,
Speaking of,
Can I just,
yeah.
just one more question about this? Because when we interviewed Michael, he was, he came out very strong about issues of, diversity, right? Hiring.
Yep.
And if we want him to take that on, we have to give him space and time to do it. Because it's gonna be time consuming.
Mhm.
All right, I'm just saying, if he's a Title IX coordinator, we just wanna
Yep.
keep track of that.
Yep.
Okay,
So that was
sorry.
really the rationale of adding another full-time position to the HR department. It's been a struggle, so.
When a person leaves a position in the district, are they simply asked to do an exit interview, or are they required?
They're given an opportunity to participate in an exit interview. They may choose to not do that, or they may choose to take that option up.
Oh, I wonder if Stacy will.
I haven't asked her that question yet. I do know at our last admin meeting, Stacy presented some exit interview information that she shared generally with the team, and then also we'll meet with individual building leaders as well to get feedback.
That would be great for the board to hear, because the last time we asked Stacy about an exit interview on the SD side, she only had one. And then she said the plan of conducting exit interviews had only materialized in January. And that had to have been January of what, 2022? It couldn't have been this year, it had to have been, it was, so you remember that.
Yeah.
January of 2022, and she only had sometime in the spring, she only had one. And then the whole question came up, are they in person, are they written, are they anonymous? Because everybody has a relative in the school system. So you might not want to speak your mind freely, right, about why you're leaving, because of relatives.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are systems that we'll ask Michael to continue to refine and to evaluate moving forward.
And that may sound more exciting than anything else to me. But we're going to need approval, so I would like a motion to approve these hires.
So moved.
Thank you, Carrie. And I think we've had a really big discussion. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed or abstentions? Welcome.
All right, great.
Moving on, I need authorization for the Personnel Committee to act on behalf of the SU Board with respect to hiring during the summer months.
You need to say it again, act.
Act on behalf of the SU Board with respect to hiring during the summer months. This is the way I just read my agenda to you. So
Oh, okay.
if you need to copy it later, you can copy it
I
later.
can do that, okay.
Yep.
So is that a motion?
I need someone to make a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Hold on, I see a hand.
Kelly.
Kelly.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, because we have this kind of puzzle of structure, are you meaning the personnel committee that comprises the SD board members and also a member of the
Yes.
I think Carrie is still on that. Are you on that still, Carrie?
I can't get off that either.
Still
So
having
is that
member there, yes.
so is that is that the committee who would be addressing these?
Yes.
So do we need to, I don't remember, was that committee set up in such a way that it would that it would have the jurisdiction of these, or do we need to do something in some way to create that committee? I mean, to create like a subcommittee for the personnel, or maybe I'm just mixing things up and it's making more of something. I just don't want to miss something if we should have done something else.
No, I don't think we need to establish a second special personnel committee for the SU board. And this is only for the summer. It's what we've done the last 2 summers, 3 summers, something like that. So
going to Kelly's point, this subcommittee of the SD board that has an SU member on it acts as an umbrella for both the SU and the SD.
it does.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure we could actually vote to have Mark act on our behalf. We don't actually need our own subcommittee on
Correct.
this board, so. Does that make sense? Okay,
Yes.
do I have, did we have?
Well, can I say, I have no issue with the personnel committee doing it. I just wanted to make sure if we had needed to do an extra step that we sort of took care of it, that's all.
Not as far as I know, but thank you for bringing it up. It's always good to err on the side of caution. Okay, so we have a motion.
We do.
Okay.
Deborah made the motion.
So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Right.
Okay. And I have the same for the finance committee. I can't imagine circumstances under which the finance committee will need to act on our behalf, but if they did, it would be an emergency. So I would like a motion to authorize the finance committee to act on behalf of the SU board with respect to warrants and payrolls during the summer months.
So moved.
Thank you, Deborah. Discussion?
Let's just clarify that the finance committee is a subcommittee of the SD board that is going to act as an umbrella for both SU and SD,
Just for the summer.
just for the summer. And the finance committee does not have an SU person sitting, well, yes, it does.
It doesn't have a Vernon number.
It doesn't have a Vernon member. Let
I
me
can
just
start
take that
showing
back.
up. I'll start showing up at those.
But it has two.
I know, I realize, I just took that back, and thank you. Okay, great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, if there weren't SU members on the finance committee, I might not consider a
Right,
motion
yeah.
like this.
Can I talk about warrants?
Sure.
Oh, wait a minute, are we on the same thing with finance?
Yeah,
Under
I
finance?
think
Well, it's under finance.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry.
I can't remember who I was speaking to, who said that there's another way of doing warrants that precludes the need for signatures from all the board, from a quorum of the board members. Is there a simpler way of doing, getting board approval for warrants than the way that we do it now?
Yeah, you could do a designee, and many boards used to do that. Before the SD was formed, there was, a designee. I don't know if Vernon.
I think we rotated.
Yeah.
Like I remember there was just one of us had to show up and do it. And then somehow we've gone back to we try to get 3 signatures, but
I mean, so we already have access to the warrants, we can read them online. Why not just skip that part where board members have to sign them and?
On our audit cycle, they do like to see a sign off. So it could be electronic too. You could, instead of a physical stop in, there could be an electronic approval through email, indicates action. So that would be fine.
Well,
I mean, I know there's a vote every board meeting that indicates the warrants approved, so I can ask our auditor to see if there's any objection if that is the only public record of board, of the warrants being approved.
And it would save a tree too.
oh, you should go back to the good old days when that warrant would have been this big because you had everything done in triplicate
And
and you got all of the background. It was really
in each
bad.
packet, there were like 4
Yeah.
places you had to sign, and you had to sign
Yeah.
3 copies of
Yeah.
each packet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, we have a
And
motion.
you had the carbon copies of everything.
To pull it back in, we have a motion on the table.
Ian's like, I want out of here myself.
No, I just want to vote on this so it's actually done.
Yes.
We have a motion by Deborah.
Yes. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any-
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? The ayes have it.
Thank God, before we got into it, we had to walk through 4 feet of snow to get to board meetings.
Uphill both ways.
I tell you what, I'll find you something 10 years old with my signature on it, and then you can look at what it looks like now. It's like medical school, that's what happened to my signature. Does anyone have any other further business to bring before this board?
No.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair. Yes. There being no further business before this board, I move we adjourn.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 We are adjourned at 7:08 PM. Thank you very much, everybody.